On my way to simp for Victor, I caught him passionately kissing the campus beauty. Get lost. I'll give you my bro, okay? For the love of God, can you stop obsessing over me and go bother someone else? Victor angrily knocked over the meal I had brought him. I froze on the spot. Good heavens. After simping for so many years, my suffering had finally paid off. My eyes instantly welled with tears of excitement. You mean that bro? The one who's 185 centimeters tall, with cool fair skin, a big nose with a mole on it, shoulders as broad as the Pacific Ocean, 8-pack abs, a razor-sharp V-line waist, and chest muscles that bounce back when pressed. The moment the words left my mouth, a lazy chuckle sounded from behind me. The boy's sharp, handsome features were breathtaking. You little glutton. You might as well just say my name. My face turned red. Victor's face turned black. Chapter 1. Victor had been in a car accident. He had lost a massive amount of blood. The hospital found me through the emergency contact listed on his phone. The red light above the operating room glared harshly. My legs were weak because of a traffic jam. I had sprinted 2 kilometers to the hospital and completely exhausted myself. Leaning against the wall, I vomited violently. At that moment, a nurse rushed out. We're running low on type B blood in the blood bank. Are there any family members with the same blood type? Victor's parents were still on their way, and I happened to have type B blood. The needle was long and sharp, gleaming with a cold light. I was terrified of needles. I fainted twice before the nurse finally managed to draw my blood. Chapter 2. Victor woke up on the second day after surgery. I deliberately put on nude-colored lip gloss to hide the sickly appearance caused by the blood donation before going to visit him. The small bit of scheming made me blush with embarrassment. As I hesitated outside the hospital room, voices drifted out from inside. I heard your childhood sweetheart donated quite a lot of blood during the surgery. She's been chasing after you for so long. Doesn't that mean you should marry her to repay her? I held my breath. The hand resting on the doorknob quietly withdrew as I nervously waited for Victor's answer. Oh, give me a break. Victor sounded as carefree as ever. Sarah and I grew up together. We're practically siblings. Now we've even got the same blood running through our veins. Dating her would feel like incest. It's honestly pretty disgusting. Besides, she's got a dependent personality. She's clingy enough already. If we actually got together, do you really think a playboy like me could settle down for her? I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I bit down on my pale lower lip until I tasted blood, and a mist quickly formed before my eyes. Victor loved to have fun. He'd had countless girlfriends. Every single time, he made me keep it a secret and forbade me from mentioning it in front of his parents. I never understood why. Victor would only flash that mischievous grin and say, "We're just fooling around." If it ever got serious enough to meet the parents, I'd rather it be our Sarah. We know everything about each other. And he was ridiculously handsome. Just a few empty promises were enough to keep me lying comfortably in the pit of simping, always waiting for the day the simp would finally become the one chosen. But reality was that Victor felt disgusted by the blood we now shared. My furious mind gradually calmed down. I looked around, trying to find something I could use as a weapon, maybe a fire extinguisher or something. Victor suddenly exploded. "Caesar, what the hell is wrong with you?" Chapter 3. I peeked my head out from the doorframe. I felt like I was sneaking around. I saw Victor being pinned face down on the hospital bed with his arms twisted behind his back while someone beat him up. Stop treating her like a sister. Try treating her like a human being first. Asshole. The one hitting him was a roommate Victor was pretty close with. He had refined, well-defined features that were elegant on their own. Yet together they created a strikingly aggressive kind of beauty. And right now, he was fighting for me. I had no idea why. All I knew was that the combination of gentleness and wildness, that charming bad boy under a gentleman facade, captivated me completely. My heart pounded violently. I lowered my eyes to the inside of my forearm. Because of the blood donation, a swollen lump had formed there. Blue, purple, and yellow bruises blended together in a rather frightening sight. Victor didn't know. A dependent personality means being clingy, but once the person you depend on collapses in your eyes, you'll immediately start looking for a new support. My gaze left Victor and stuck firmly to his roommate. Chapter 4. Come to think of it, the reason I had always viewed Victor through such a flattering filter came from the first time we met as children. Both of my parents were leading medical professionals. They were always busy. The worst time was when they accidentally left 10-year-old me locked inside a car, with the doors locked. It was the height of summer, just when I thought I was about to suffocate to death. A small hammer shattered the car window. Victor was the first to notice me. Then he called his parents over to help. His anxious little face hovered above me. In a fluster, he brushed away the sweat-soaked hair sticking to my face and carefully fed me water. Like a stranded fish, I desperately gulped it down. Finally, my rapidly heaving chest slowly calmed. Wrapping his arms around my neck, Victor looked up at his parents with his chubby childhood cheeks still prominent and proudly declared, "Mom, Dad, I saved a little mermaid." A little mermaid. What a sweet nickname. I fell completely, as fate would have it. When my parents later took me to thank him in person, I learned that Victor's family was the new family that had just moved in next door. Another time, afraid I would cry and make a fuss, my parents secretly took a late-night flight overseas for a conference. But I still woke up in the middle of the night. The thunder was so loud, curled up at the head of my bed, terrified. I called my parents while crying. Phones had to be turned off during flights, but I didn't understand that back then. I only knew that if the call didn't go through, I should keep trying. Later, Victor climbed over from the connected balcony and knocked on my balcony door. "Hey, scaredy cat." He teased me first, then shyly added, "Isn't that why I'm here to keep you company? Stop crying." Childhood sweethearts. Victor filled the void left by my parents' long absence. I loved sticking to him. For 10 years, I followed him everywhere, to the point where it became unhealthy, to the point where I depended on him completely, until today's speech about how our shared blood disgusted and shattered the filter through which I had always seen him. Chapter 5. The door was pulled fully open, and light spilled out, interrupting my memories. I immediately lowered my head and turned my back. A faint scent of bitter hazelnut cologne drifted through the air. By the time I snapped back to reality, Victor's roommate had already walked far away. Judging from his back, he still seemed furious. I hurried after him. Victor was hopeless, and because of that, I, who had spent so long attached to him, felt once again like a leaf floating alone on the sea, drifting without direction. I needed a new route, and Victor's roommate, from the way he looked, seemed very protective of me. Chapter 6. I found Caesar downstairs by the drink vending machine. The machine seemed to be malfunctioning. I walked over and punched it twice with a loud bang bang. A soda promptly dropped out. I picked it up and handed it to him. He raised an eyebrow, surprise flickering in his eyes. As he reached out to take it, I tightened my grip. The kin froze between us. "You like me." I said it with complete certainty. Caesar laughed. He overpowered my grip and took the can, casually rolling it around in his broad palm before asking with amusement, "What makes you say that? You don't look like the kind of person who'd get into a fight for a girl he doesn't know." "So you like me?" My gaze landed on the scraped skin over his knuckles. "So you heard everything?" This man kept dodging my question. I was eager to move on from Victor, so I spoke bluntly and directly. "I want you to be my boyfriend. You don't have to be perfect. As long as you're always good to me while I'm pursuing you, that's enough." The aluminum can crumpled with a crisp crack under his grip. Leaning against the vending machine, Caesar narrowed his eyes and studied me. "You want me?" The way he paused between the words made it sound completely different. My face instantly burned red. Caesar let out a long sigh and smiled in a way that was dangerously charming. "What is this, little girl? Planning to kidnap a handsome man in broad daylight?" With a push of his long legs, he straightened up and stepped away from the vending machine. I hurried after him. "Wait. Don't go yet. You still haven't answered my question. Do you like..." A jacket suddenly landed on my head. It stopped my steps and blocked my vision. A deep, magnetic voice sounded beside my ear. He must have been standing very close. I caught that bitter hazelnut scent again. "Kid, clear your heart out first before you start recruiting people into it." I yanked the jacket off. Caesar had already gotten into a taxi. The window was rolled down. His profile was sharp and sculpted. His Adam's apple was ridiculously attractive. Damn it, what a flirt. He was teasing me on purpose. And now my heart itched even more. Ever since middle school, I'd known there was something wrong with me. The more I acted like a simp toward people who treated me well, the more fulfilled and satisfied I felt, as though doing so could make them stay with me forever, stay by my side, the psychologist had said. It was a personality disorder. Chapter 7. That night, I slept hugging Caesar's jacket, just like all those nights before, when I relied on Victor's presence beside me. Because our families were close, when my parents moved away for work, they simply left me in the care of the Ma family. Victor's parents were wonderful people. I was timid and afraid of the dark, so they connected our neighboring bedrooms and installed a window about a meter high between them. I was on one side. Victor was on the other. When Victor was in high school, he would push open the window, lean on the frame, and grin at me. Sarah, come on, pick a bedtime story and let me guide your sleep into smooth sailing. When Victor got to college, he would lean against the window frame and casually toss me a wired earbud. Be good and put this on. I'm dating someone right now. It's just that our Sarah likes me, so she'll probably feel bad for a while. He was a jerk, and he never tried to hide it. One night, I had fallen asleep. The earbud accidentally slipped out. I was awakened by some intimate sounds. Victor and his girlfriend were on the phone, flirting, doing things that crossed plenty of boundaries. A dull ache spread through my chest. I took a deep breath. The familiar bitter hazelnut scent filled my nose, and I finally calmed down again. Only then did I realize that all those years, it wasn't that I had unlimited tolerance for the way Victor trampled over my feelings. I had simply been accumulating it all, waiting for a breaking point, and then I would throw him away completely. Chapter 8. Victor was being discharged from the hospital. His mother was the one who told me. Coincidentally, she had a headache that day and asked if I could help Victor pack his things. The very next second, a text message from Victor came in, as bossy as ever. Sarah, come to the hospital and help me pack. For Auntie's sake. I didn't want to refuse. When I arrived, Victor was sitting on the bed with his injured leg propped up, playing a game. Hearing me enter, he didn't even look up. You're here? I didn't really feel like talking to him. I gave a perfunctory response and started packing his clothes. Suddenly, an opened box of condoms fell onto the floor. Hearing the noise, Victor glanced up. He didn't look embarrassed at all. Oh, my girlfriend came by. Over the past few days, Ivy, the campus beauty and my roommate, had often been absent from the dorm during the daytime. It wasn't hard to imagine what the two of them had been doing in this VIP hospital room. They really knew how to have fun. In the past, I probably would have found a corner and cried in secret. But now, I felt like an emotionless NPC simply completing a side quest assigned by his mother. Once everything was packed, I slowly moved over to Victor and peeled an apple for him. I had learned this move from Victor himself, back when he was pursuing Ivy. This was exactly how he used to order me around to help him. Chapter 9. I asked. Victor, are you and Caesar pretty close? Victor seemed to remember the conversation from that day. A flash of guilt crossed his face. He pushed the apple away and winced dramatically as he changed the subject. My mouth hurts. I can't bite into it. Only then did I notice the wound at the corner of his mouth. The cut had already scabbed over. Oh, I sat down. Is Caesar hard to pursue? Him? Seeing that I genuinely seemed unaffected, Victor's tone became lighter. Yeah, he's pretty hard to crack. A guy that handsome has stayed single all this time. Sometimes I wonder if he's into men. Then he asked, why do you keep asking about him? I quickly cut the apple into pieces, looking eager. Victor, introduce me to him, will you? I really like him. If Victor acted as the middleman, I could find a new person to depend on, and Victor could finally be free. A win-win situation. I was practically a genius, but Victor froze. As if throwing a tantrum, he swept the apple pieces into the trash can, pointing at the wound on his face. He glared at me. Sarah, are you blind? Caesar is the one who gave me this injury. You haven't visited me once since the surgery, and now you have time to worry about another guy? Do I need to remind you? In the past, you'd be worried sick and rush to get medicine to treat my wounds. And now, look at what you're doing. For some reason, Victor suddenly started nitpicking my attitude toward him. But my concern had always been something he looked down on, something he found annoying. So I answered honestly. Because I don't have any desire to care about you anymore. Victor. I had never spoken to him this sharply before. Victor's usual half-lidded eyes paused. The fake smile lingering at the corners of his eyes gradually faded. After a while, he smiled again. His gaze drifted to the box of condoms before returning to me. He looked completely convinced he had figured me out. You're jealous. Sarah. Let me tell you something. Using another guy to get back at me doesn't work. Because I've always seen you as a sister. Although, when Ivy and I break up, I suppose I could consider giving you a chance. Victor kept smiling. Smiling as he looked at me. There was a trace of mischief in that smile. And suddenly, I remembered where that cruelty of his came from. When I confessed to Victor after graduating from high school, he had also smiled as he asked me to blow out the candles on my birthday cake. After I happily made my wish, he said, "But what should I do? I've only ever thought of our Sarah as a sister." That day, my birthday stopped being a happy one. I secretly cried for a long time because of that single sentence. Just a sister. Childhood sweethearts know each other best. And they also know exactly how to hurt each other. Victor was trying the same trick again, trying to break me all over again. I grabbed his luggage and threw it at him. Asshole. Chapter 10. My first Cold War with Victor had officially begun, but I didn't have time to worry about it. Lately, my mind had been completely occupied with one thing: how to win over Caesar, to the point that I kept zoning out during lunch. Sarah, I'm counting on you for this afternoon's fitness test. My roommate pressed her palms together and looked at me pitifully across the cafeteria table. She had originally signed up as a volunteer for the fitness assessment this weekend, but it happened to coincide with Valentine's Day. Her long-distance boyfriend was finally coming to visit, so she asked me to take her place. The job was simple: count repetitions and keep time. I was assigned to the men's pull-up station. To my surprise, Caesar was there too. My eyes lit up. Amid the cheering and teasing from the other guys, he effortlessly knocked out 20 pull-ups before stopping. The crowd immediately started giving him a hard time. Caesar, you're washed up. 20? That's not even half your usual score. Your core giving out on you. Caesar? Caesar wasn't annoyed in the slightest. He draped himself over the bar and laughed. Sweat slid down from his jawline as his voice vibrated through his throat. Why don't one of you give me a number? Whatever you say. I'll do. 150. Everyone was having the time of their lives watching the spectacle. Caesar chuckled. Your votes don't count. He tilted his chin toward me. You, the girl recording the scores, suddenly being called out. I froze. Every pair of eyes turned toward me, confused. I looked up and met Caesar's strikingly handsome face. For some reason, my cheeks felt warm. After a moment's hesitation, I said, then, 30? Compared to everyone else's suggestions, that was already a very modest number. But when Caesar finally dropped down from the bar, he looked genuinely exhausted. I felt guilty. Without thinking, I reached up to wipe the sweat from his face. Caesar lowered his head and let me fuss over him. His eyes shifted slightly, as though glancing somewhere to the left. Then suddenly, he relaxed completely and leaned his weight onto me. His chin came to rest on my shoulder. Somewhere in the distance, I thought I heard someone call Victor's name. Before I could listen more carefully, Caesar exhaled softly. His warm breath brushed against my ear. I'm tired. It's all your fault. I didn't know much about pull-ups. I had no idea that casually throwing out a number would leave him looking like he could barely stand. Feeling sincerely guilty, I took the opportunity to push my luck. Then, how about I compensate you by adding you on WeChat? Without changing his position, Caesar tilted his head and looked at me with amusement. Sure. He stepped back and pulled up his QR code. I immediately scanned it. Then I discovered we were already friends. Not only that, I hadn't even bothered to give him a nickname. I stared at the screen in disbelief. When I looked up, the smile on Caesar's lips had turned accusatory. Surprised? Back then, to make it easier to keep track of Victor, you added every guy in our dorm. His gaze lingered on the contact name. His tone turned deliberately sarcastic. Guess I get it now. Other than Victor, I wasn't worthy of having a name. Back then, my entire world revolved around Victor. I genuinely hadn't paid attention to anyone else. I immediately flashed an apologetic smile, then another, and another, shaking my head so hard it almost came off. Who understands this kind of pain? Trying to pursue someone, only to discover you'd already embarrassed yourself long ago. Chapter 11. That evening, Victor's mother called me. We arranged to meet at the school gate. I have no idea what that brat is busy with. I can't even reach him. Tell him that if he keeps fooling around, he can expect a beating when he gets home. While grumbling about Victor, she stuffed a thermos of black chicken soup and a bag of medicine into my arms. Sarah, Victor just had surgery, so I'm counting on you to look after him a little. The soup has several medicinal herbs in it. He's hated the smell ever since he was little. Help Auntie keep an eye on him and make sure he finishes it. And he left his medicine at home too. Please bring it to him while you're at it. I obediently nodded. No problem, Auntie. But the moment she left, I collapsed onto a stone bench with a miserable expression and opened my chat history with Victor. The screen was filled with messages I had sent on my own. I heard from your roommate that you hurt your hand playing basketball. Is it serious? If it's swollen, use some ice. Don't be afraid of the pain, and don't get lazy about it. By the way, don't you still have that group presentation to finish? I don't have classes this afternoon. As for Victor, not a single reply, and I hadn't taken the initiative to contact him in quite a while. The most recent interaction had been a message he sent in the middle of the night, only to unsend it immediately. At the time, I had been watching a drama and was still awake, out of habit. I typed a question mark into the chat box, but then I thought about it. If he unsent it, he probably just sent it to the wrong person. There was no need to investigate further. That was when I realized something. I was no longer curious about Victor. To my surprise, the next day he sent me an angry voice message. Nice one, Sarah. I saw you typing, and you still didn't reply to me. Apparently, he had caught me during the few seconds I was hesitating. Because of that incident, our relationship deteriorated even further. We had reached the point where we would deliberately avoid greeting each other whenever we met. Still, Auntie had spent hours making the soup, and it really was delicious. Biting my lower lip, I finally gathered my courage and sent a message. Victor, could you come to the security office for a moment? I waited a long time. No reply. In the end, I could only go find him myself. As I passed the basketball court, one of Victor's roommates recognized me. Seeing the things in my hands, he greeted me enthusiastically. Yo, bringing Victor's stuff again? He should be on the rooftop right now. Thanks. I continued forward. Then suddenly, I walked straight into someone's chest. It was surprisingly firm and annoyingly springy. Looking down at the items in my arms, Caesar let out a laugh. Then he deliberately copied his roommate's tone. Yo, bringing Victor's stuff again? No. I immediately explained with utmost sincerity. Victor's mom asked me to deliver these. After saying that, I kept walking. After all, it was already awkward enough to be running errands for my former emotional support while trying to pursue my new one. Chapter 12. Victor! The moment I pushed open the rooftop door, a startled cry rang out. The next second, Ivy threw herself into Victor's arms. Her face was buried deep against his chest, and even her complaint came out muffled. This is all your fault. You said nobody would come up here. As my eyes adjusted to the blinding sunlight flooding the rooftop, I saw everything more clearly. There was an abandoned rectangular table. Victor sat lazily on its edge. One of his large, well-defined hands rested on the campus beauty's back, holding her tightly against him. What is it? Tilting his head, he looked at me. A large smear of lipstick stained the corner of his mouth. The traces of an intense kiss were impossible to miss. I didn't walk any closer. Forcing myself to speak, I said, Victor, Auntie made black chicken soup for you, and she asked me to bring your medicine. Oh, Victor's tone turned sarcastic. He pushed Ivy away and abruptly stood up before walking toward me. Do you know what we were doing 1 second before you opened that door? My fingers tightened around the bag. I shook my head. Heh. Victor let out a mocking laugh. Turning around, he hooked a finger under a piece of white lace and casually held it up. I was unhooking her bra. Embarrassment flooded through me. I'm sorry. I'll leave right now. But before I could turn away, someone grabbed my wrist and pulled me back. Victor stepped closer. His gaze felt like a cold, venomous snake. Enough. Sarah, you know how annoying it is to be interrupted when you're in the middle of something, right? Seriously. How long are you going to keep throwing yourself at me? Uncomfortable. I turned my face away. I'm not. You're not. His temper flared instantly. If you're not, then why are you still clinging to me? The more he spoke, the angrier he became. With a backhanded swipe, he knocked the ceramic container from my hands. It shattered on the ground. Chicken soup splashed everywhere. Without thinking, he blurted out, "Get lost. I'll give you one of my bros, okay? For the love of God, can you stop obsessing over me and go bother someone else?" I froze. Victor had a lot of friends. Which one was he talking about? After thinking for a moment, I cautiously asked, You mean that bro? The one who's 185 centimeters tall, with cool fair skin, a big nose with a mole on it, shoulders as broad as the Pacific Ocean, 8-pack abs, a razor-sharp V-line waist, and chest muscles that bounce back when pressed. There was no hesitation, no pause. I rattled it all off in one breath. Exactly the way Caesar had described himself, and that description, accurate enough to rival a GPS location, instantly plunged both Victor and me into silence. The atmosphere became strange. Victor stared directly into my eyes. There were no tears there, no redness, not even a hint of hurt, only clarity and expectation. Maybe it was my imagination. But Victor's expression seemed to darken even further. At that moment, a lazy chuckle sounded behind me. I turned around. Leaning against the doorway stood a young man. His cool, striking features were breathtaking. Looking straight at me, he said, "You little glutton, you might as well just say my name." Chapter 13. I was so embarrassed that my face felt like it was on fire. "Why are you here?" If I hadn't come, I would have never known that someone had studied my body in such incredible detail. The lingering glow of the sunset highlighted Caesar's refined features. Hearing the familiarity in our exchange, Victor's face darkened. "When did you two get so close?" "This morning on the field. You were already hugging all over each other." "Sarah, can you have some self-respect? Do you really have to throw yourself at people?" I was shaking with anger. Coming from him? The human equivalent of a walking red flag had the nerve to criticize me? Caesar wrapped an arm around my shoulders and smiled gently. "Sarah is my girlfriend. I think a hug is perfectly reasonable. Don't you?" I froze in shock, then immediately nodded like crazy. Had I actually succeeded in simping my way into a relationship? No, wait, I hadn't even started simping yet. The two men stared at each other from a distance. Caesar wore a faint smile, looking completely relaxed. Victor's lips were pressed into a tight line, like a storm waiting to break. Then my stomach growled. Caesar gave me a light push. "Come on, I'll take you somewhere good to eat." Chapter 14. Leaving behind a Victor whose face was dark enough to drip water, I followed Caesar while asking excitedly, "So you're really willing to be my boyfriend?" Behind me, Victor shouted, "Sarah, if you leave with him today, there'll never be another chance for us." I turned around. Seeing that, Victor's smile immediately widened, but it froze just as quickly, because I looked at him with open disdain before turning away and following Caesar around like a little tail. "You're really my boyfriend now?" Caesar took my hand and tightened his grip. The warm yellow light inside the car spilled over him, coating him in a honey-colored glow. "Sarah, the truth is, I've liked you for a long time. Before, I was afraid that if you got me too easily, you wouldn't cherish me, so I deliberately kept you at arm's length. Just now, I was genuinely afraid Victor would take you away again." Caesar's face was bright red, breathing in that familiar bitter hazelnut scent. My heart pounded wildly. He said he'd liked me all along? Unlike Victor, who had always treated me like a backup option? Caesar leaned over to fasten my seatbelt. My heart skipped a beat. Taking advantage of the angle, I planted a quick kiss on his handsome profile. Then I asked, "Will you stay with me forever and never find me annoying?" A sweet warmth spread through my chest, but before I could fully enjoy it, disaster struck first. The car door opened, still hugging Caesar's arm, my cheeks burning. I stubbornly refused to get out. Caesar tried to pry me loose, though he looked suspiciously pleased with himself. I know you're clingy with me, but maybe don't be clingy right this second. Come on, let's go eat. I looked at him miserably, on the verge of tears. Caesar, I think my period started. More importantly, I had no idea whether I'd stained his car. The first time I got my period, I hadn't understood what was happening. I accidentally stained Victor's Digimon rug. He had been furious. He yelled that I was dirty and even banned me from entering his room while I was on my period. And Caesar and I hadn't even known each other that long. I felt completely helpless. But to my surprise, Caesar crouched down so our eyes were level. His warm palm rested gently against my lower abdomen. Does it hurt badly? Then his other hand brushed the tears from the corner of my eye. His expression immediately darkened. We're going to the hospital. No, that's not necessary. Some painkillers will do. I couldn't exactly tell him I was crying from embarrassment. Fidgeting with the ring on his ring finger, I said awkwardly, "It's just that I might have stained your car." Caesar sighed helplessly, looking as though he simply couldn't do anything about me. His thumb gently wiped away my tears. Don't cry over little things like that anymore. With me, your body and your feelings come first. Fireworks exploded inside my head. It had been a very long time since anyone had said something so warm to me. I hugged Caesar even tighter. Thank you, Victor. Thank you for generously contributing such an amazing boyfriend. Chapter 15. By the time Caesar and I arrived at the hot pot restaurant, we were already a little late. Yet none of his friends seemed upset. The group of guys and girls immediately started teasing him. Oh ho, Caesar. Who's this? Caesar only smiled. He quietly dipped slices of meat into the clear broth for me and didn't answer. I nudged him anxiously. Say something. Why are you in such a hurry? Girlfriend? Caesar deliberately dragged out the last word. His eyes sparkled with amusement as he copied my tone, looking effortlessly mischievous. The entire table erupted into cheers and teasing. Embarrassed, I buried my head and focused on eating. Caesar was absolutely doing this on purpose. Then a familiar voice sounded above us. Caesar, mind if we join you? The question was directed at Caesar, but Victor's dark gaze landed squarely on me. He had actually followed us. Standing beside him was Ivy, who looked anything but happy about it. Neither of them seemed to have come with good intentions. I assumed Caesar would refuse. Instead, he smiled warmly. Don't be a stranger. We're all friends here. Why would I mind? If not for the fact that he immediately stood up and switched seats with me, placing himself directly between Victor and me. Victor watched every movement coldly. His entire body seemed tense. Several times during dinner, he ignored Ivy's attempts to get him to leave. Later, a server came over with drinks. When she asked whether I wanted something cold or warm, two voices answered at the same time. Warm, cold. The first belonged to Caesar. The second belonged to Victor. Their gazes collided briefly before separating. Victor curled his lips into a mocking smile. Sorry, but Sarah has only ever liked cold drinks. When we were in middle school, she gave herself gastritis from drinking too many iced beverages. I was the one who took care of her. As he spoke, he slid the glass of ice water in front of me. His eyes remained fixed on Caesar. But I guess you can't be blamed for not knowing. You weren't part of our lives all those years. Sarah and I have plenty of memories you'll never know about. Great. We had encountered a male pretentious coquette. I worried Caesar might not be able to handle him. Instead, Caesar calmly placed the warm drink beside my other hand. A faint smile lingered on his lips. Sorry, but our Sarah isn't feeling well today. Cold drinks aren't a good idea. Then he looked at Victor and added casually. Victor, that's pretty disappointing. You've known Sarah for all these years and still don't understand her physical condition. No wonder people say childhood sweetheart relationships can't compete with someone who arrives at the right moment. A direct hit. Turns out this one was a pretentious coquette too. I picked up the drink Caesar had given me and took a sip. My choice couldn't have been more obvious. Victor's grip on his glass tightened until his knuckles turned white. Maintaining his composure was becoming difficult. He raised the glass and took a large gulp, seemingly trying to suppress his anger. I didn't understand. Why was Victor so hostile towards Caesar? And why had he insisted on joining our table in the first place? Chapter 16. After dinner, Caesar drove me home. Just as I was about to get into the car, Victor grabbed the door. His face was cold as frost. "You two going to get a hotel room?" The moment he met my furious glare, he shrugged and smirked. "Aren't you? There seem to be plenty of hotels nearby." I snapped back immediately. "Sounds like someone knows the area really well. You rotten cucumber." I slammed the car door shut. Bang! It nearly caught Victor's hand. In the rearview mirror, he looked furious and powerless. "Sarah, you've really grown bold. Just don't regret abandoning me." I leaned back in my seat and closed my eyes. Victor had been trying way too hard to make himself the center of attention today. "You feel sorry for him? What?" Caesar kept his eyes on the road, but his grip on the steering wheel tightened noticeably. His lips pressed into a thin line. "You feel sorry for him?" This time it wasn't a question. It was a statement. "No." While we waited at a red light, I grabbed Caesar's hand and started playing with it. It was pretty, fair, slightly pink, and beautifully defined at the joints. No sympathy at all. I let out a dramatic sigh. "I just think he's really annoying." How strange. I never thought there would come a day when I found Victor annoying. Chapter 17. The next day, I waited for Caesar so we could have lunch together. Classes had just ended, and crowds of students flooded the walkways. Someone was walking through the crowd with a cigarette between his fingers, completely unconcerned about accidentally burning passers-by. He strutted around like he owned the place. Careful. Caesar had just stepped out of his classroom when he pulled me toward him. As a result, the cigarette burned a hole in the back of his shirt instead. "Hey, stop!" Furious, I was about to march over and demand an explanation, but the guy disappeared into the crowd almost immediately, pinching my puffed-up cheeks. Caesar laughed. "Don't be mad. We're getting your favorite sweet and sour pork later." "No, we need to go to the campus clinic first," I insisted. The school doctor found some ointment for us. Not long afterward, she left to use the restroom. As I applied the medicine to Caesar's back, a mischievous thought suddenly crept into my mind. I glanced left, then right, and quietly pulled the white privacy curtain closed around us. Turning around, I found Caesar sitting on the examination bed with his arms braced behind him. The corners of his lips were curved upward. He watched me with obvious amusement, as though he were waiting to see what I would do. My face immediately turned red. Leaning closer, I pressed a quick kiss to his forehead. Then I hurriedly retreated. "Thank you for protecting me." The world spun. In an instant, Caesar had pinned me down on the examination bed. One hand wrapped around my wrist and held it against the pillow. He lowered his head and lightly brushed kisses against the corner of my mouth. Nervous, I swallowed hard. "Don't do anything reckless. This is the campus clinic." Caesar lowered his head slightly, drawing closer to my neck. He spoke in a low voice just as my heart threatened to burst from my chest. "For a second there, I thought you were planning something much more dangerous. Next time, don't close the curtain unless you're prepared for the consequences." Suddenly, the sound of approaching footsteps echoed through the room. My eyes widened in panic. The next second, Caesar pressed his lips against mine. Shoo! A moment later, the footsteps moved away. "They're gone." Caesar gently patted my head, stood up, and pulled the curtain open. Then, he came face to face with Victor, whose expression was darker than the bottom of a burnt cooking pot. Chapter 18. What were you two doing behind that curtain? Every word Victor spoke seemed to be squeezed out through clenched teeth. Unfortunately for me, I was in the middle of fixing my collar, and after holding my breath moments earlier, my face was still bright red. The whole scene looked incredibly suspicious. Victor gritted his teeth. His fists shot out and grabbed Caesar by the collar. The force of his grip turned his knuckles white. "You bastard! What did you do to Sarah?" Caesar remained calm. "No matter what Sarah and I do, I don't think we need to report it to you." The tension instantly exploded. The two men stood only inches apart, glaring at one another. Lately, they had been getting far too many opportunities to stare each other down. Panicking, I hurried forward, afraid Victor might somehow steal my boyfriend away. At that moment, the school doctor returned. "What are you two doing? Let go right now." Victor shoved Caesar away. But after only taking a few steps outside the clinic, he suddenly spun around and threw a vicious punch. Did you touch her? Who gave you permission to touch her? Caesar spat out a trace of blood and immediately punched back. You don't have the right or the status to be jealous. If I remember correctly, I'm Sarah's boyfriend. And you? You're not even an ex-boyfriend. What exactly gives you the right to compete with me? Honestly, why did he have to provoke him? Completely triggered, Victor raised his fist again. I immediately spread my arms and stepped in front of Caesar. Enough! You're protecting him? Victor looked utterly stunned, like a trapped animal caught in a snare. His eyes were bloodshot. Sarah, we've known each other our whole lives. You're protecting him? Then what does everything between us even mean? The shouting made my ears hurt. I took a deep breath. Victor, I'll ask you one question. Why did you come here today? Victor stammered, frustrated. He dragged both hands through his hair. I don't know. I just don't want you to be with another man. I realize that every time I see you with someone else, I get so jealous I feel like I'm losing my mind. I think I've always liked you. You've been by my side for so long that I forgot what it felt like to fall for you. Ever since I saw you with another guy, I've felt wrong. He looked at me miserably, pathetically, like a wounded puppy. Heh. I let out a cold laugh. Raising my hand, I was about to slap him. Caesar stopped me. Don't stop me. I'm not. Caesar shrugged. I'll do it for you. Without a second of hesitation, Victor got punched again. He crashed to the ground. I crouched beside him. Victor, I realized you liked me long before you did. Otherwise, I never would have been the emergency contact in your phone. But here's the problem. I don't like you, and I have no intention of giving you a place in line. I will always think of you as a friend. Victor's eyes widened. The blood vessels in them seemed ready to burst. Then, he covered his face. A low, broken sob escaped him. I stood up. Suddenly, my vision darkened for a moment and my body swayed. Fortunately, Caesar caught me immediately. You fragile little thing. You should spend more time exercising with the retirees in the park. Less talking. I rolled my eyes. What are we eating for lunch? Holding hands, we walked away together. Behind us, Victor stared at our retreating figures, then slammed his fist into the ground in agony. Why was it that he had realized he loved Sarah so much too late?